So let's talk about how to use LinkedIn Sales Nav to make sure that when you scrap, you have the best list possible.
Yeah, sure. Happy to show you some tricks, because it seems like there are still a lot of people that are not very familiar with the best way to use Sales Navigator. Just one quick reminder why you should use in Sales Navigator to get your data versus, for example, databases that are out there is right now, data is expiring faster than ever, especially in the economy we are in. Basically, you have around 3% of your data that expires every month, which means about 25 to 30% every year, depending which sector you are in. So of course, you want to go back to the source, which is Sales Navigator, where you always have the freshest data. This being said, let's have a look together. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you how to best use all the options there. Okay, so here we are. The starting point of Sales Navigator, the search engine. The first thing I would like to say, and it may seem obvious, but the best way to use Sales Navigator is to use it. By that, I mean that you should start with some simple searches, look at the data you're going to get to see what sort of quality Sales Navigator is returning, how it's responding to your searches. I see many people who have little knowledge of it. Immediately, they want to start making super complicated search. They look maybe at the first or second pages of the results of a 2,000 people search. And so it means they have no idea what's on page 50, page 100. They have no idea exactly how Sales Navigator is responding to their keyword. So that's actually something very basic. You want to use Sales Navigator, start using it. Start making simple searches. And by that, I mean, okay, let's do something together, something kind of high level. I'm gonna search for chief marketing officers. Let's say I want to find people maybe in London. So you see here I have 2,000 results. Of course, this is not very segmented, and maybe I want to limit this to people in the financial service industry. So now I have 254 results. It's actually quite manageable. Now I can look at the results I have. I can see, the data that's returned by LinkedIn, and I can try to understand it. And it also gives me a basic understanding of how this filter works. Of course, you want to start with the basic one before you move to the advanced one. So look at the list here. Go at the bottom here, and navigate to the last page. So again, to see if all the results are accurate, try to understand why they may not be, and you will get a good understanding of how LinkedIn works. Let's see, for example, this person here, Niam. I was looking for Chief Marketing Officer, and it seems like she's a partner. That's her main title. So I may want to open the profile to get into more details, and I can understand if it's a mistake from Sales Navigator, or if you look here at the details, you will see that she's got several active jobs. So this gives you, an understanding of how Sales Navigator works. That's what I meant by use it, see how it works. And you will see, okay, I'm getting results that may not look like they exactly match my initial request because people have several active jobs on their profile. Here, she's a partner at this firm, White Violet, and she's also a fractional CMO. So this is the first step. Okay, so this being said, let's look quickly at all the filters that are available here. I'm not going to describe each of them because the names are pretty straightforward. I'm just going to show you a few interesting facts. First of all, you need to know that here, if you click on Advanced Filter Definition, you're going to open the tab from Sales Navigator, and we are going to explain exactly what each filter is. In case you have a doubt, please look at this documentation. It gives you the basic knowledge you need to use all the filters. Then you can start with the information about the companies. Of course, you have the company name. This is something obvious. Then the company headcount, which is the number of employees. You have the past company, which may be interested if you want to target people formerly working at a company. For example, if you want to target ex-Google employee, ex-OpenAI employee, because for some reason it's your product is more relevant to them. You have the company location, as opposed to the geography, which is the location of the person. Be careful here because I'm targeting people that are in the London area, but maybe they are working for an American bank. So they will be in London in financial services, but they could be working for JP Morgan or, Goldman Sachs and a company that's located in the US. So don't get confused between the company headquarters location and the geography of the person itself. Then you have this filter here, which is company type. To be honest, I don't think it's one of the most useful one. So I won't get into details, but it's basically the type of company, if it's a private company or if it's a public company, a non-profit, etc. Unless you have a very specific condition for the company you target, I don't see this filter used very often. Now let's move to the person, because this is something interesting also about the filter company that we will see elsewhere as well. Is if you look at the company headcount here, when you look at all the options, Sales Navigator is going to indicate how many people are in each option. Something interesting here is that I have 254 results, but if I select every option here, you will see that quite often the total is not equal to the initial search. You can see here I only got 226 results. Why does this happen? It's happening because some people may not have a fully completed profile, so they may not be connected to the company that actually employs them, or they are like an individual and they have not created like a corporate page for their small practice, their small company, or it can be a very old, outdated profile. Don't be surprised here. This means that most likely the 30 people we didn't get here are not that interesting to you because their profile is not up to date, or you won't be able to extract any information about their company. But it's interesting to notice that we will see that in other filters which are similar to company headcount. For example, if you want to choose the experience about the person here, years of experience, or years in current company or current position, you will see that the sum of all options doesn't give you the same total. And again, this is because people may have a profile that's missing some information, like their starting date at the company or anything like this. And usually it's an indication that it's not a profile that's really active or up to date and that you should be interested in. Most likely the information is outdated and can be discarded. Now, let's move at the filter regarding the person. So you have 3 filters here that are regarding their current job title, the function, which is a way Sales Navigator has categorized different options. So this is basically a list that you can choose from. What's interesting is you can include or exclude some of this function, but you're not in control here. You have to trust basically the categorization made by Sales Navigator. Here, the current job title, you have both the option to choose from the list or to enter your own keywords. You can see here, I entered Chief Marketing Officer, and I could complete that list indicating CMOs, and it's giving me a few extra options. But CMO was not an option within the list of Sales Navigator. So you need to look at this. I will show you the difference between using your own keyword and using keywords that are already made by Sales Navigator in a moment. It's also important to know that you can exclude the keywords here. So for example, it wouldn't make much sense, but if I was to include CMOs, I want to include only Chief Marketing Officer, and for some reason I want to exclude CMO. See, you just go over the job title and click here on this circle, and basically it's going to remove them from the list. Of course, here it's creating some confusion because LinkedIn is trying to interpret your keywords, and of course, Chief Marketing Officer usually means the same as CMO. Again, depending how you want to build your query, instead of using the job title, you may want to use something called seniority level. Here, again, you don't get the choice. You have a list, a menu of options from Sales Navigator, ranging from basically people that are in training, maybe interns, entry level, and moving up all the way to vice president or CXO level. This could be interesting, for example, if you want to have an approach where you want to be very broad, and you may want to select people that are in the marketing, and you want to target people that are operational, so not necessarily strategic people, but for example, directors, experience manager, and we have another option interesting, maybe senior. Let's say we will include senior as well. So here, of course, the categorization is much larger. It's not just the job title, it's everybody in marketing for this particular seniority level. The other filters are also pretty straightforward. The past job title could be interesting if you want to target people that are in one specific job but used to be in another one. Of course, it's a very advanced scenario. Most of you guys won't do that. And once again, I advise you to start simple before you start making more complicated searches. Then you have the years in current position and the year in current company. This may be interesting if you want to target, for example, people that are brand new. Say, okay, I want to target people that just arrived freshly in the company. For example, in this case, senior people which are fresh and maybe more interested in challenging some things in the company. Or on the contrary, I want people with an established track record in the company because I believe that in my particular field, they will have more influence. Same goes with yours in current position. You may want to target people that have been in position for a long time or not. These options are given to you by Sales Navigator. You cannot choose, and you can only include them. You cannot exclude a certain seniority. Sorry, a certain experience here.
And can you, from your experience, is it more accurate to just select the title that LinkedIn suggests us and then the seniority, or is it more accurate to put your own keywords?
That's a good question, and I will show you the difference in a minute if you allow me. It also depends on the approach that you want to have, because it's not that easy to always sort the information in Sales Navigator. So do you want to scrap more people, especially using a software like Vein that gives you a lot of credits and the ability to scrap larger searches, and then filter out the data later using an Excel spreadsheet, Google Sheet, or even something like Clay? Or do you want to try to be as specific as possible from the beginning? It's also, depends on how you feel, how comfortable you feel with manipulating the data afterwards. But it's a good question, and I will show you the difference in 2 or 3 minutes. Just to finish here with the filters here, you have some other filters that are still like specific to the person. So the geography, as we have already seen. So here it's interesting to know that you can select people working in a certain area, like or city, a region, a state in the US, or entire continents. This is particularly interesting to note that we can also exclude people. Let's say here in my example, I want to select people working in the United Kingdom, but I want to exclude, so I get 15,000 results, and exclude people working in the London area for some reason, and I can make that choice here and restrict the people I'm going to see, people outside of London. The rest of the filter are very specific because we are about the name of the last name of the person. So usually this is only if you are targeting somebody specific. The profile of the language, profile language could be useful if you are planning to craft campaigns in many different languages. But I have to say from experience, I think only 20 to 50% of people have actually put the information about the different languages they speak. So you can try to do that for certain kind of campaigns. I don't know if you will see a lot of result because, again, 70% of the time you won't have that information. And a last filter that could be interesting here is the school, because I've seen good results from people which are targeting alumni from certain school. Usually it's because they have attended this school, and this could be a icebreaker, because they have created something in common. Of course, if you are attending the school with tens of thousands of people, it will not feel that personal. But also, again, it can give you a little edge in your campaign. Before I move to the right column, which are more advanced filter, I would like to answer your question, Sebastian, like to see what's the difference, between your own keywords and using the keywords provided by LinkedIn. So here we go. Here I have made a search using my own keywords. It's a bit similar to the one we had before. I'm using, as you can see, a combination of titles from the marketing industry. So VP or director or head of and marketing. This specific way to create a search here is called a Boolean search. It means it's a logical query where LinkedIn is going to show me people that are either using VP, director, or head of, and marketing at the same time. Notice that I'm using some quotation mark here for head of because this is 2 words. If I'm only using one single keyword like VP or director or marketing, in this case, I may not need to use the quotation mark. Quotation mark may restrict exactly to this specific keywords, whereas if I'm using VP, LinkedIn may include some people that are vice president because, as I've said before, they tend to interpret the meaning of your keywords. And in this particular search, I'm searching for people in the United States, specifically in New York City. If you see here the total results, you will see I got 3,000. Now, let's move to a similar search, but using LinkedIn's keyword. Again, same industry, same city, but instead of entering my own Boolean search, I'm using the options provided by LinkedIn. So vice president, marketing director, head of marketing, and you can see I only get 1,000. This is because using these keywords, LinkedIn is going to be more restrictive of the people it returns. So you were asking me what's the best option. So there may not be just one best way, to approach the search and decide if you should use a combination of keywords or use the options suggested by LinkedIn directly. The question is, do you feel comfortable sorting out the data after? And you prefer to have 3,000 people and make sure you don't miss anybody, because clearly here LinkedIn may miss some people that you wanted. Or you say, okay, no, I prefer to have a very targeted list. I don't want to sort it out after, and I want to import it directly into my email enrichment platform, and I don't want to pay for people that may not fit exactly my ICP. One of the interesting way to look at the difference between using these keywords and your own Boolean search is to look at this person here, Brian Esposito. As you can see here, he's a VP of marketing. And you can see the same Brian here, which is head of strategy in a different company. So how is this possible? Well, as I mentioned, some people may have several active jobs on LinkedIn. And if you look at Brian's experience, actually, he's got maybe 10, 15 of them. As you can see, they're all present. LinkedIn was returning something like his head job titles if you are not looking for the specific keywords they give you. But if you use the chief marketing option or the VP marketing option they provide you, I'm sorry, I have to find it somewhere, but basically they will return exactly the job title. The job title they will show in the list in your search will be one that fits your query. And again, based on Brian's extensive experience, and he's got a lot of active job titles. So again, the example of Brian is interesting to show you how LinkedIn may show the data based on how you are using the filter. It's also important to notice that Sales Navigator is going to look at all your current job title to find people. So again, person like Brian, which may have 10 active job title, which is a lot, of course, probably an exception, but if you have maybe 2 or 3 open job titles, then LinkedIn will search in all of them as a possible current job title. That's something interesting because with Vane, you have the option to export not only the current job title, but also the 3 job titles before that. So again, some of these job titles will not be previous job title, they'll still be active. And thanks to Vane, you could see them in your data and you can understand why LinkedIn returned a profile that may not exactly look like it's matching your query, but it does. Going back to the Boolean search here, there's a few things that are interesting to notice is, first of all, it may not be necessary to make a Boolean search. Again, this is a more advanced search. It's easier to start with the option provided by LinkedIn. And most importantly, you want to avoid having just one Boolean search with all the possible options because it's going to make it very complicated for you to maintain. Of course, it looks like you want to have the perfect option from the beginning, but maybe you can include several Boolean search like this one here in the different job titles, and it will be easier for you to read and to maintain if you need to go back to this search afterwards. Another important thing is you have to be careful not to mess up the Boolean search with the specific character the Boolean search is using. For example, here, I'm using some brackets. If you are using brackets inside the brackets, it could mess up the search. Just showing you an example here, derivative from French is when you want to include gender neutrality in a word in French, you may include a special E at the end of the word, and we tend to put it between brackets. But here the problem is I have made it very hard to read for the Boolean, because how is it supposed to understand that this bracket here is a special character and it's not to be interpreted as a Boolean character? Another issue I see frequently is people not using the proper quotation mark because they have created the text in some tool like Notion that may apply some formatting to your quotation mark. And again, it's going to mess up the Boolean search. Another character that I've seen that can mess up your Boolean search is from German, and is using column. They use that in the word, in some specific word, to express gender neutrality. So again, this is language specific. You have to wonder if you are using something like this in your Boolean search, or again, if you keep it as clean as possible. Another option from the job title that you may be interested in, and you may not need a Boolean for that, is to exclude certain keywords. So again, here, going back to my search, I wanted to exclude people that have strategy in their title. Very often you will see people adding at the end of the Boolean search the option not. So they will add something like this, not strategy. They believe it's the easiest word to exclude these keywords. And as you can see, it's not. It may include something weird. So the best way to exclude a keyword is to add it to the search and then use again this option here to exclude it. The connection between both of these fields, on both of these options here is an AND connection if you are using not, and it's a OR connection if you are using some inclusion. So in this case here, it will say VP or Director and Marketing or Strategy. But if I'm using the not, it will be and not strategy. This is very important to understand that how the Boolean works in that regard. Now that we have covered some of the basics, we can look at the more advanced filter, which are in the right column. I don't want to get into details for all of them because they can be a bit tricky. And once again, you need to look at them, test them, and see if it brings any results. But basically, the first ones are new ones that LinkedIn has introduced, which is called category interest or account buyer interest intent. And basically, LinkedIn is going to use its algorithm to determine if a buyer could have any interest in your particular product or in the particular product category. So here, for example, if I put the keyword CRM, they should suggest people that are likely to be interested in CRM product. To be honest, to me, it's a bit of a black box because you don't know exactly how they get that. You have to trust that LinkedIn data is good. But certainly, this is something you can try. You can look at the different categories and see if one fits the description of your product and try to reach out to these people specifically or in priority because they may have more interest than the rest of the people in the search for your product. Of course, yeah, then you have some known option for advanced users, which is people following your company. So this is particularly interesting if you are looking to scrap people following your company and maybe add them to your newsletter. If you want to also keep a relationship with them outside of LinkedIn. There is also a little trick. If you want to target people that are following your competitor, you can actually set up your profile as working for your competitor. And in this case, you will be able to scrap the people following your competitor's page, which again is maybe a signal that they have some interest in your particular product. So here in this category, we have some other advanced option to filter people. You can see how you're connected to them, if you're in your first degree connection, second degree, third degree. This could be useful if you don't want to collect the data for the people that are in your first circle. Of course, you already know them. You may have already other ways to reach out to them, so may not need to extract them. Connection off is a way to filter people that are connections of your colleagues or some business connection, and this could be used as an icebreaker. For example, hi Kim, I've seen we are both connected to John. Could be interesting for you. And then, of course, people that are past colleagues, people you may have shared experience with. Here we have some interesting options, especially here, the first one called change jobs. If you use it, you will see only people that have changed jobs in the last 90 days. This could be interesting if you want people that have just joined the company and again, maybe looking to change things and are looking to challenge their current vendors. Also, this could be a way to keep your data fresh. Because here, for example, I can see 165 results. But of course, if I come back tomorrow, I may see new people that have since changed job and are now inside my search. This means it could be like a daily flow of new data, new profile that match your ICP, and using some automation, the Vein API that you can connect to make.com or N8N, for example, you could easily set a system that's going to scrap people every day, trying to enrich them with email addresses and then push them to your campaign. Meaning you can have an automatic system reaching out to people perfectly matching your ICP without you doing anything. It's going to work during your sleep or even during the holidays. The second filter here shows you people that have posted on LinkedIn recently. Again, this is useful if you want to target people that are more active on LinkedIn. Again, always depends on your use case. I don't see that many people using that one, to be honest, but if it fits your particular ICP, this is good to know it's here. So moving to the last part here, to this section here, which is going to use a list you have already built, which could be very interesting if you are targeting a specific list of person you want to reach out to or follow regularly, or most importantly, if you are doing account-based marketing and you want to limit your search to certain companies that you already know, and you don't necessarily want to rely on the filters provided by LinkedIn for the company. So let me change here a bit my search. I'm going to remove a few keywords. And here, instead of looking for companies or people in the financial industry, I'm going to use this list here this filter here called account list, and I'm going to use this list called CRM that I've created before, and I will show you in a minute how to do this. So now I'm using this filter here called account list and using a very precise list of company called CRM. I will show you in a minute how to create it. Basically, it only includes HubSpot, Salesforce, and Pipedrive. And now my search is restricted to VP or Director of Marketing working in these particular companies. So again, why this is interesting, because you can enrich this list whenever you need to. If you find out about a new CRM company you're interested in, you can add it to the list and then again restrict your search to this specific list of accounts that have maybe a priority, for example, for your company. And you can create a lot of account lists, to play with. On the contrary, if I don't want to include, this list, but to exclude it because maybe these 3 companies are my customers and I don't want to see people working for my customers because, again, I'm already in touch with them, you can exclude the list. So now this is going to make the search very large because I have not included any company, so I'm getting 38,000 people, but at least I'm sure that none of them are working for my, and it means they are all potential new leads. The same option exists with lead list, and except for lead list, if I'm using here this one that I've created, I call it like CO to follow. I'm not going to find anybody here because this is just one person that I have added. So I need to remove all the other filters and it's going to show Mark Benioff. So I take this example, of course, everybody knows Mark. Why this could be interested? For example, if you want to, you can create a list with all the champions that are working for your customers. By champions, I mean the people that have helped you win the account, people that loves you inside the company, and you may want to follow them, especially, for example, looking the change jobs filter here. So you have a list of, I don't know, maybe 100 guys that love you, with who you have a relationship, and track if you are moving to a new company. And this way, would be an opportunity for you to find out that they could actually champion you with their new employer and maybe bring you a new prospect and eventually a new customer. Now, I want to move to the account tab. So basically, I don't want into too many details here because, again, it's all about the filters and we have covered them, most of them by now. I think you understand how it works. Just want to show you a few interesting ones that could be found here in the accounts tab that are not in the lead tab. First one is the annual revenue. So basically, you can try to filter company not by their head count, but by how much money they make. This is an estimate made by Sales Navigator. It's not 100% accurate, but again, it's usually close to the reality. Another interesting filter could be the company headcount growth. So again, if you want to look for companies that are quickly hiring or actually may be downsizing, that could be an indicator. Another one could be company headcount growth. So you can measure company which are hiring a lot of people. It could be a sign that they are growing quickly and may need some help with something. The headquarter, the industry, this we have already covered this one. Here you have the number of followers. Again, you may want to track company which are a lot of followers because it could be also interesting to scrap these followers, as we have seen before, indicating that you're working for this company, and you may want to find the one with the biggest audience. Here, you have the department headcount and the department headcount growth. So this is very similar to the company. It's just that, okay, you may be looking for companies with a specific number of people in a particular department because the company may have a lot of employees, but if you have a limited number of employees in the marketing department or in the sales department, again, it could tell you that they may need help with that. Here you have the job opportunities filter, which help you target companies that are hiring on LinkedIn. Usually this is useful for recruiters if you are trying to find out company again that are currently hiring and may need help with that. The recent filter activity, I would say one of the interesting one is this one called funding event in past 12 months. Usually interesting to target startups that have fundraised. This could include company rising debts or rising money in the financial market. So you can even end up with bigger companies, but still, like if you are filtering for smaller companies, and again, it can tell you which one have fundraised. I believe this data is coming from Crunchbase. Here we find again the buyer intent filter that we have covered. And here, again, you can find the filters we have seen before. So the account you have most importantly, the account list. So here we go and we find my CRM list. I'm going to show you how to increment the number here of companies in it. So looking at how to create account lists for account-based marketing, you can see here, my CRM, my list of CRM companies that I've included in my list. In this case, I knew them by heart, so I know I could just go here and find them directly. But let's say I want to add another one. For example, let's try to see if I can find people working for Zoho CRM. So I will search it by name. Good, I found it. I just need to save it here, choose the list to save it into, and boom, I have an extra company in my list. So now, if I look at the list again, so now looking at my account list again, my CRM list, you can see there is an extra company, which is Zoho CRM. So now if I'm looking for VP of marketings, that are working for this account list, people working for Zoho will be included in it, which is of course going to be very useful as I grow this list. The last advanced thing I want to show you about using Sales Navigator, and for that I need to go back to one of my initial searches. So here, again, Vice President, Marketing Director, Head of Marketing, working in financial services in New York City, and I want to save that list, that search, and try to find out whenever somebody else that's fitting this criteria is added to the list. So basically, you can see here this little toggle here is going to tell you how many filters are in your search, and if you click on it, it's going to save these people. It's going to create a save search, and you see you have here a little notification saying that it was saved and that you can manage this save search and go back to a list here with all the search that are identical, and go back to all the list here of all searches that you have made using the same process and that you can review. So if I just click here, this just shows me the same people I was already looking at. And of course, I can modify the search, I can include or remove some options, and then save it again. But one interesting thing is, so if you go back to it, the list of saved searches here using this option here, you can see for some of my older searches, I have a little indication that new people are now fitting my criteria, and you have the date since they started. So basically, since I last saw this search on January 17th, 98 people are fitting the criteria. So if I click here, not on the name of the search, but on this little green link, I will only see the 98 people that are now, fitting this particular criteria. And the good thing is with Vein, you can just use the link here and scrape these 98 people and again add them to your campaign. You don't need to process the whole save search again. You can just get the new people. So it'll save you a lot of time. Now, there is even an advanced option, which is to use Vein API to automatically look at this search every day and try to see if there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 98, 100% that have been added to the list because they have updated their profile, they have just changed jobs, and they are now fitting your ICP. And the way to do that, it's a bit technical. We will do another video about it, but I want people to know this is a possibility because, again, it gives you the option to create some automation that's going to feed your cold emailing campaigns every day on autopilot, is to modify here. You see this number here, last viewed at. It's actually a timestamp, and this is basically a mathematical number that means since January 17th. And using some automation tool like N8N, this is very easy to calculate the number. So it's updated every day. And so, for example, it will be January 30th, tomorrow, January 31st, or maybe you want to do that just weekly and basically calculate this number and automatically send your search to Vein using our API. And again, collecting the profile, enrich them with an email address and push them to Smartlead, Woodpecker instantly, whichever system you are using for your outbound. There's one last field I haven't covered yet, which is the search keyword field. And this field is kind of tricky to use, and I see very often people making mistakes in using it. The first mistake I see people doing is actually using it instead of using the filters here, provided by the search engine of Sales Navigator. For example, I see often people using the keywords here instead of using it for the current job title. And you can see here, it's returning a lot more results. And the reason for that is because this field is not precise at all. This is searching for information that could be anywhere on the page. So it can be your current job title, could be your former job title, could be something about your education, 15 years ago. It could be information found in your biography or in your job description. So you want to use it only in very specific cases. Here, for example, again, people will be using it to search for job titles, and they shouldn't do that. They should use the job title field. This is the one that's going to give you the most accurate response. Even though it could look like here, there is some interesting information, but very quickly you're going to find out that this is way too complicated to sort because you don't know where the information is located on the page, and you don't know if it's relevant to your particular search. So if I put back the keywords here in the current job title, one of the things I could search with, for example, would be strategic partnership. Although this could be part of your, job title, most likely it will be part of your job description. And basically, it becomes now interesting to use it because I know the job titles I'm searching for. This is a lot more precise than if I was using the keyword search bar. But I'm also very likely to find people that have the keywords strategic partnerships in their job description or in their little biography. And again, it means that it's going to be a lot easier to find out if they are part of my target, my ICP, or not. So be very careful with this keyword search here. Only use it for things that you can absolutely not find in the regular filters. And be careful because you don't know where the information is going to be. A lot of the time is going to be irrelevant, and it will require for you to filter out the data in your Excel spreadsheet, in your Google Sheet, once you have finished to scrap all the profiles that you wanted.